Everybody's looking for so much outside validation that they're impatient. They want to show everybody that they're successful, thus they're rushing into things. You have 23-year-olds who think that they don't have their life figured out, yet they're living for another 80 years. Patience has been huge for me. Most people hear the word patience and have it confused with complacency, laziness, lack of ambition. It's not true. I actually think patience has been foundational in my success. I decided to build my dad's business for him for the first 12 years of my career. That required huge patience from somebody who thought they were great. I didn't even start, quote unquote, until I was 34. Patience is huge, it's huge, and people don't want to do it because they want instant gratification. And more importantly, instant outside validation.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Gary Vaynerchuk, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, start seriously.
Life is about understanding the alternative. It's really hard to complain about what milk was put in your Starbucks when you came from the dirt. So, there's a lot that we don't need to touch on in this room. I could talk about what I think you should be doing from a content standpoint, because the reality is, I promise you, the number one variable of growing your business in this room that is practical, achievable, doable, is how serious you take making content on the internet. It's that simple. No matter what anybody in this room says to me of why no, because they've never started and they have an ideology, or because they've made 45 posts on Instagram and haven't sold anything yet, no matter what your excuse is, I promise you, social media is not broken in that story. You're the one that's broken. It was funny, last week, someone's like, Gary, you've been talking about LinkedIn, and he showed me the posts, and he's like, it's not working. And in the post, I'm talking about making content in the feed of LinkedIn, knowing who you're trying to reach, running ads against the employees of those organizations for content in the feed. And then I ask him what he's doing, and he's spamming people by paying $100 a month for a script that just emails people on LinkedIn. That little story is something I think about every day. The ROI, I like to say, of a basketball is billions of dollars for LeBron James. It's zero for me. How one plays with the tools is the variable of success. And so we can get into the mindset, very much the intro, which was lovely, thank you, and in depth. I do believe that the far majority of what is the opportunity in this room or the limitation sits in two very simple categories. One's uncomfortably black and white, and one is remarkably gray. The black and white is what I just started with. Until you start making dozens of videos, pictures, and written articles a week, you will continue to leave an extraordinary amount of money on the table, and somebody sitting next to you is gonna do it and take your market share. And I don't care if you've been the queen of that city for 30 years and work on your reputation, slowly but surely you will lose, because that's what always happens in business. If that wasn't the case, IBM would still be winning. I love this industry, and I love OGs, because my dad's an OG. I started so young, I'm an OG. Like, I love OG life, and it is absolutely building on reputation. But I love when an agent says to me, dear, you don't get it. I dominate this town for the last 30 years. I'm like, dear, you don't get it. You don't get it. Much bigger companies than you have gone out of business with audacity. And it is audacity in 2022. It is only, and this is very clear, if you're sitting in the crowd and you're not doing this work, it's only two things, and they're both interesting. One is audacity. You're audacious that what you did in 1993 or 2001 or 2007 is enough for you to dominate 2022. Or you've lost your ambition, which is okay. I don't think of that as a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing that you're not as hungry. Maybe you've scratched your itch. Maybe you do want to do other parts in your life. But don't lie to yourself and understand yourself on where you are in your journey. 2022 is going to be a remarkable opportunity for this room. The question is very simple though. Who's going to actually put in the 30 hours of work starting today to actually know how to do pictures and videos and written words on these platforms, and who's not? And it becomes a very simple game. It's a black and white prescriptive game. Either you're good at it or you're not. No different than basketball.
Rule number 3, choose people over profits.
It is very clear to me, 25 years into my career, that kindness and empathy and patience and humility are actually the foundations. And I think the things that all of us think about as soft skills and emotional intelligence are actually the hard skills. That it is far easier for me to find people who are good at the task or have good math skills than it is to find people who are capable of being the bigger woman or bigger man in the face of pressure or adversity. And so for 20 years or so, this has been in my subconscious. COVID, like for many of us, gave me a time to reflect, and I immediately went into writing the book on a couple of reasons. One, I'm incredibly aware that there's a lot of young people paying attention to my moves, are fans of what I do, and I thought it would be a disservice if I wasn't incredibly aggressive in my communication on the things that I see as a winning formula. It becomes double important when I realize that most people don't talk about kindness as the single alpha skill in building a successful empire. And I thought it was a unique take. It's also very nuanced. The reason the subtitle is Ingredients is when I was going through my process, I realized, oh, I never just deploy empathy. I never just deploy patience. In every situation, it's actually 3 or 4 different traits, often traits that are in a conflict with each other. It's very interesting to be tenacious and ambitious while being patient. And so I liked the concept of ingredients because it's like cooking a meal. I think we all believe that sweet and sour chicken is something that is delicious, but sweet and sour can see at conflict. So I felt that I was the right person at the right time. And what has transpired in the last 18 months, because I wrote the book very quickly in the beginning of COVID, obviously it takes time for it to come out and things of that nature. Many of us are thinking about things in the business world around the concept of the Great Resignation and the concept of people even applying into businesses in the first place in a world of options. I think the importance of being a leader that understands these traits has even compounded in the last 18 months since I even wrote it, which feels serendipitous and exciting for me. And I really hope that people also, if they read it, realize this is not a book that is meant to over-coddle the millennials or Gen Z. This is truly believing that this is the alpha infrastructure to building significantly large, successful businesses.
Rule number 4, embrace change.
What blows my mind is people's inability to put in the work in the face of information. All of you know that this blockchain thing is brewing. You've definitely heard about Bitcoin at this point. You've probably maybe heard of Ethereum. It's happening, and it's gonna affect this industry soonest. This is the book industry for the internet. The blockchain is contracts. Please understand that. Please, it's a very important thing. Please spend 15 hours Googling Ethereum and smart contracts. Get educated, not to play defense, but to play offense. You do 15 to 30 hours of homework, you might just change your career. You might shift slightly in what you're doing now to something else. It's a remarkable time. And one thing I know about an immigrant-centric reality is it's not scared to put in the work. And I really know this statement. It likes to pick which work it wants to do. People don't like change. And change is the only guarantee. What the blockchain eventually will do is change the face of what brokerages, leverages in the ecosystem. Right now is the time to build your personal brand on the internet, and I mean right now. How you do that can be totally different. You don't need to be over the top or curse like me. You need to be you. I'm me, you be you. But what you need to do is start producing content to educate people on who you are. If you're uncomfortable with the way you look and you don't want to be on video, then do audio and do a podcast. If you're not sure that you can handle the camera, then write on LinkedIn or Facebook. If you feel more comfortable being the hostess with the mostest, start a Facebook group regionally within your area. One of the greatest arbitrages in this industry right now is starting a Facebook group for the local area where you sell around the town, not around selling homes, bringing people in, building community, and then just happening to be the person that's hosting that group and picking up the business. These are the black and white tactics available to you. How you build your team and how much empathy you have for the consumer on the other side is the other variable. But the opportunity is staggering. It is staggering. The speed in which people are changing what they consume, which then dictates what they think, which then dictates how they buy, is at a level we've never seen before. I come here, fly across the country and fly back for one reason: to put so much pressure on this room to do the homework. To do the homework. I mean it. The opportunity is so real. You are literally one, because I'm on the receiving end of these messages. You're one viral TikTok video away from selling 13 homes because of it. And you don't go in there and start doing the latest dance. You're trying to sell homes. I mean, you're more than welcome to shake your ass, fine, but it's a lot more interesting to talk about what you want to talk about, but making it contextual to the room. People say no so much. TikTok's fastest growing demo is 38 to 55-year-olds. You can still think it's 12-year-olds. It hasn't been 12-year-olds for 2 years. That's the game of no versus the game of yes. That's the game of staying curious. The biggest vulnerability to people in business today trying to sell to human beings is their unbelievable calmness and interest in saying the word no, and their visceral reaction to the idea of maybe. The innovation that we're living through is big. The opportunity is even bigger. But this requires homework. Before you decide that content on social media can't sell for you, did you really do the 20 hours of homework and the 50 hours of you doing it? It doesn't count when you have your niece do 6 posts for you. This world is reading about push-ups instead of doing them. I wish, that's actually not even true. I wish this was a game of people reading about push-ups and not doing it. We're not even reading about push-ups. We're dismissing push-ups before we even read about them. I ask you and implore you here today, my friends, to open up your heart to curiosity, to open up your eyes to the reality of what's happening in our society and how people are making their decisions, and to shed your preconceived notions and start putting in the work. For a lot of us, me included, it was easy to put in the hard labor, right? It was easy to put in the work. It's much more challenging to figure out the new technologies. The problem is the world doesn't care about you and me. The world's gonna do what the world does. And the way people are gonna make buying decisions are gonna be based on the people they see here. Period. End of story. And if you're not showing up here in 2022, you're not showing up.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, develop emotional intelligence.
I believe that we are born with a lot of our traits. I believe we are then parented and some of the traits go up and down. I believe we are environments of our neighborhood, our country, our culture. When I tell you the thing that comes least natural to me in the world is candor one-on-one, and for me to see where I am today as a 46-year-old man, everybody in this room has the ability to grow in many of these attributes. Most don't want to put in the work. Most would prefer not to do the things that come hard to them. Most would hope that it goes unnoticed. Nothing goes unnoticed. People may not tell you, but nothing goes unnoticed. I believe in the human spirit. The world is very black and white to me on this one. People evolve. People change. People can get stronger at certain things. People can get weaker at certain things. And so I am incredibly optimistic on humans' capacity to evolve. What it requires is first acknowledging its truth, seeing it. One of the reasons I produce the content that I produce is with the hopes that when I do this right now, literally when I tell you that I'm just hopeful that one person in this room is listening and something triggers, one, because that's profound. Saying a couple of sentences that shift a person's perspective, which allows them to start building towards a better place for themselves and the people they love, is a great gift. And I take on that responsibility. And I think everybody in this room who is fortunate enough to be in a happy place has a requirement to start communicating it. Because we live in a world today where negativity is incredibly loud and positivity tends to be silent. And I think if you are positive, you have an obligation to your fellow man to communicate it and make it louder.
Rule number 6, work hard.
Do I believe that work ethic is a foundational piece of success? Yes, I do. Do I want anybody ever to work so much that they get depressed? Of course not. I never think that money is the driver. And so I think whether it's lazy headline reading or not doing homework, yeah, it's not been the most fun to get dragged into.
No, I was like on my phone reading that article. No, and there's so many people who are proof of the words that you say, me included. So yeah, it's like, oh man.
Listen, there's a byproduct of success.
Yeah.
You know, where people will, hustle porn's a term, leveragepreneur is a term. Leveragepreneur is when you're using other people to build yourself up at the cost of the other person. And, I think that as you get bigger, people will leverage you. And I'm okay with that because the truth always wins in the end.
Right.
And, I know the body of work that I put out, my intent. And if you want to clip one thing or one definitive statement from one talk without the context of the whole thing, of course you can say anybody says anything. But the reality is that, I believe work ethic is important if you want to achieve hyperbolic success. I don't want to tell people how to be happy.
Yeah.
So why are you telling me how I should be happy? And there's plenty of people that are super depressed that work 40 hours a week. Like, it's just hyperbolized link baiting, leveragepreneuring, and I'm okay with that. But at the same token, it's important not to not take other people's points of view into account. And I'm in a constant, focus of that as well.
Rule number 7, learn to deal with fear.
My belief is that fear is powerful, and however you were brought up or what your ideology is on safety, you put having a job on a pedestal as something that's secure. The logic for all of us listening to you right now is if you're making double what you make in there, it seems like a very obvious step, but I'm empathetic that you're scared to make that jump. My thing to remind you and people out there in a similar situation is it's not very hard to get another job if you fail, if you leave this job. And so for me, if we were friends and we talked all the time, the thing I would always remind you every day is if you take the leap of faith and some reason it doesn't work, which by the way, if you're making double your salary as a side hustle, if you give 100% of your time to that, I have a funny feeling it's going to work out. But I would remind you that you could always go and get a job again in the same industry, maybe for a different company. Believe it or not, and I've seen this sometimes for the same company because they missed you, that's what I would pound into your head, because whatever you grew up with, it created an ideology that a job was safe. Does that make sense to you, Mo?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you very much.
Listen, before you leave, you need to re-listen to that over and over and over. Every human being is the byproduct of what they listen to. So if you're listening to your parents or a +1 or somebody else that's saying, no, don't make the jump, you're not gonna make the jump. If you listen to somebody who's saying something practical like take the jump, and oh, by the way, if it doesn't work, you can always go back, and if it fails, who cares about other people's judgment? Then you'll jump.
Rule number 8, innovate your mindset.
This is a very simple business conversation. If you want to sell things, it's a good idea to make it easier for people to buy from you. And so the innovation is the mindset. The innovation is going home now and deciding what you just saw in this talk and saying, is he right or is he wrong? And if you find yourself saying, he's right, but I don't want to, I really mean this, that's okay. But then you have to be honest with yourself of where you are in your career, whether that means maybe doing something else because you don't have fire for it, or being content, which is fine, a beautiful thing if you're content, but you have to be aware that this is all happening around you. I don't have to tell this room how much innovation is going on in this space. You've got the biggest technology companies in the world interested in your money. I know what the big tech companies are doing. I know what's happening with blockchain. I know what's happening with the 20-year-olds that everybody makes fun of who are picking up incredible market share from a lot of you because they're actually being seen on social. They may not know the business yet. And you love making fun of them for that. I got bad news for you. That they'll figure out.
Yeah, no, that's may need to take a pause on that one.
People make fun of things until they don't. Everybody made fun of the Kardashians until they didn't. Everybody made fun of Tesla till they didn't. Everybody made fun of my pictures until they sold for $1 million today on Christie's.
Congratulations.
People love to make fun of things. And what I'm worried about is this room's too successful.
That's a great
Success is the beginning of the end.
What are some of those, you've spoken candidly about your parents and the meticulous upbringing. What are some of the things they taught you that now even get you to sit here and give back in such a fashion?
I think gratitude is the reason I give back. I think the single reason I want to put out all the content and do things like, I'm very compensated for a speech like this, but no longer does that make financial sense to me in my business world. It's just amazing to be here with all of you. I love it. Why? Because I know how I communicate. I know that I come here with an agenda, and that agenda is to suffocate one person in this room's bullshit. with the hope that it's exactly what they needed to go do something, so that in 4 years they could send me an email and say, I was in San Diego in 2021 and I thought I was hot shit, but then you got me, and then I got my together. And now my family's so much better. And that feeling for me is better than even when I'm winning. So my selfishness is my selflessness. It's fun for me. I'm already good. You know, it's very easy to give when you're fulfilled.
Sure. Right?
And so for me, what happened? My family heritage was crazy up. My mom lost her mom at 5. My dad lost his dad at 16. We lived in the Soviet Union. A lot of people don't know this. I didn't realize how many people don't know this. You weren't allowed to leave the country. The country was a prison from 1918 to 1990. A prison. You weren't allowed to leave. Leave. Everybody spent time in jail because the government owned everything. Cuba and Venezuela are a vacation compared to the Soviet Union in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. So, you know, here I am. We left in 78. I'm growing up in America, and this is gonna really hit for this room. I'm growing up in America, but am I really? Because in my 4 walls, it's Russia. Right? But I have both. Right? So in the house, all I'm hearing every Friday night and on the weekends is the stories of the old country, and it's a disaster. And I'm out here drinking Coca-Cola and watching Mickey Mouse. And so very quickly, I'm just thankful. I'm just grateful. And so gratitude was big. The other thing they taught me was the story looked like this. 6th grade, Nintendo explodes. Right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Mom, Nintendo. And she's like, good, go get it. And so, you know, that framework gets you serious about lemonade and washing cars and shoveling snow. And so my parents taught me a level of work ethic that I would, in hindsight at 45, say was probably too extreme. The 3 of us talk about it a lot. I think all of us collectively look at each other and say, maybe we took it to 130, 100 would have been fine, 80 would have been fine. We lived in 130. I worked, from the time I was 14, I worked every weekend and every summer vacation day of my life. All of them. Like when people hear it, I don't think they understand all of them. Not like kind of, you know, like you meet people, they're like, they helped out in their family business every day. I was a terrible student. My parents sat me down at 14 and they're like, you're not going to Harvard, so you're gonna work every day. And so work ethic was taught. And then I had such a gift of communicating that my father really, really impacted my life because he has no tolerance for lying. And I had an incredible ability to manipulate everyone on earth. And when you're young and you realize you have gift of gab, you have no idea how to fully function with it, right? And so my dad really helped me because I was so scared of him. And for my father, embellishing or a slight exaggeration was like a death blow. He keeps it so straight, and that really helped me a lot. I think about that a lot. I was gifted with so many things, but it really worked out for me on how they parented me. But it all comes down to gratitude. When I tell you the only thing on earth I care about is the health of my family, it is the only thing I care about. Everything I do in business is a game. I don't give a shit. Money, all of it, health.
Rule number 9, become more self-aware.
This is hard. The concept of teaching someone to be more self-aware is something I've been thinking about for a long time. You know, I think the thing that drives so many of us crazy in the world is interacting with those that struggle with self-awareness. I think one of the hardest things for people to deal with is hypocrisy. We struggle with it, and I struggle with it. The exercise in the book that I decided to do was creating frameworks for the people that know you the best to create a safe space for them to be able to tell you the truth. I think one of the reasons people struggle with self-awareness is because they have enablers around them that are allowing them to get away with bad behavior. And so I'm spending a lot of time trying to think about how one puts the people that knows them the best in a safe place to actually give them the critical feedback that could be the jarrer of a journey towards self-awareness. It's a very tough challenge. I don't know if I have the answer. What I can tell you is, no question, the business leaders that I admire, the human beings that I admire, are the ones who are off the charts in self-awareness. I'm incredibly grateful for the luck of the DNA game that I think gave me a lot of it. I would argue that the only reason I have any level of popularity is because of self-awareness, because of the kind of communicator I am and my personality. I would be completely not palpable if I didn't have high levels of self-awareness, because I have some really funny attributes as a communicator. And so it's a conversation we need more of. I do think that self-awareness has a very interesting relationship with accountability. I think that a lot of people actually know what their shortcomings are, but they try to navigate the world in a way where they are hoping that people don't notice. And it's something I'm thinking a lot about.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is give yourself permission to grieve.
I'm a big believer that the world is doing a bad job in not allowing people to grieve. When there are events that I'm assuming are happening here, my friend, which I'm so sorry for, I don't think the world does a good job on allowing to grieve. For example, you would think me, Mr. Rah-rah positive, go, 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 happy, look on the bright side, would be the first person to overwhelm you when something like that happens, to be like, no, it's okay, they want you to keep going, they're looking down and they wouldn't want you. Like, I feel like I, on paper, look exactly like the person that would be at the forefront of the, no, let's start the rest of your life, and they're looking down at you and they love you, and like, which I have those thoughts. Comma, at 46 years old with the gray hairs, my belief is that we need to collectively, as 8 billion people, create a better conversation around grieving. I really do. I, for instance, feel no pressure on getting back to work when I have a moment like that happen in my life. I really don't. I will grieve, because I haven't been through it, it might take me an hour, because I could see that, knowing my chemicals, and it could take me 4 months, and I can see that, because and by the way, let's all call a spade a spade. The circumstances also are a major variable. Like, how did you lose someone? Is it a tragic, ridiculously unfortunate accident? That's gonna hit you different than a long drawn out illness. Like, there's a million ways to think this through. Did you have time to reconcile it because it was a drawn out illness? Or was that even more challenging because it was like a cloud for 2 years? There's just so many what was your relationship with that person? Of course, like, you know, people have parents and siblings and spouses and children and loved ones, but I don't think anybody here is confused. We have different relationships with the closest people in our lives that are different than our friends and family. My relationship with my mother couldn't be more different than my dad's relationship with his. And so there's a lot of variables that go into this. I often find that regret is a huge driver of how someone reacts. This is why I over push people to over communicate with the people they love. I think a lot of us get into our patterns. It was easier for me to talk to my parents when I had an hour commute from New York to New Jersey in Wine Library for 5 years than it is today. I think about it daily. Like, do I feel good about how often I'm talking to the people I love, knowing that everyone has an expiration date? My friend, the answer to the question is, give yourself time to grieve. It's just okay. It's the most profound, there's 2 profound moments in life. The moment someone is born and the moment that someone dies. There's a lot of interesting stuff in between, weddings and other things, but that's it. At its core, that's it. And I think that they should be understood and we should go deeper into them. And I think we have to be more supportive of grieving and letting people go through it. Obviously you want to be supportive, and some people get into a spiral. There's people that are more positive by nature, there's people that are more negative. So there's so many nuances to this question, but I'm a big fan of one thing, like a big fan. I say it a lot. I think that people judge themselves too much. I just think all of you are beating yourself up too much about things. The things you're not, or, you know, my sister's back to work and doing great. Why am I sitting in this dark room sad about my dad? Because that's how you feel, and that's okay. And I think we need to have that combo. Look, my friends, you can't run away from who you are. You can try to mold yourself into a politically correct world, and luckily we're way beyond, well, not way beyond, this is unfair, but I'm glad that the world is now focusing on other variables. We'll always have race and religion and sexism and those things, but now we're leveling up even into like what's a modern dad and like, you know, what fit work-life balance and things of that nature. Look, I know the optics. I know I'm living a public persona. I know I have to answer these questions. Look how many work-life questions you got. I'd like to be politically correct. I'd like to be perfect. I'd like to make it easy on myself to not have to deal with the stress of the optics on the outside. Here is the punchline problem. You can't run away from who you are. You can't. And so I'm ambitious. Like I want it. I'm careful to not give advice that I know is uniquely something that I was gifted with. Like, how do I tell you that, oh, here's how it actually works? And it almost started happening, it didn't happen. Like, I actually get goosebumps. Like, actually, like real heavy goosebumps when I hear something that I know feels right. What's the advice there? Hey, Johnny, start getting goosebumps. Like, there's certain things that I can't talk about because I know they're not practical. They're intuitive to me, right? And so, yes, for me, it's the balance of, I feel like something's happening, but it always comes from seeing stuff. Like it's going to the candy store with my little guy and hearing 4 8-year-old girls talk about slime, and then later go to Shake Shack and hear another 2 8-year-old boys talk about slime, and I'm like, slime? And then I search it, and this is like a year ago, and I search it, maybe actually it's 18 months ago, and I search it on Instagram to see hashtags, I search on YouTube, I search Google, I'm like, this is real. There's something happening. Spinners, right? Like fads are easy for me. And I think what I've been good at in business is trying to decide what's a fad and what's an actual business. So something like social cam. I downloaded it and got very serious about it in 2011. I didn't know even the founders of social cam. It wasn't that I knew if social cam was gonna be big. I didn't invest in it, I didn't go after it, but I knew video on the mobile device was gonna be big. So when Vine got hot very quickly, I was an early mover, an early advocate of Vine and Vine influencers, right? Which, by the way, Vine influencers are absolutely the precursor to this Snapchat, Instagram thing we're dealing with right now. That's where they came from first. Instagram was photos. Then when Vine was dying a little bit, they all moved over to Instagram. Instagram was smart and made video, 1-minute videos, and that's when you saw the shift, and that became the seed and the foundation of Instagram influencers, which is an enormous billion-dollar industry now. Everyone's like, how are you so early? It's because I put in the work. 2011, social cam, learn how video on mobile works. 2013 comes along, Vine pops. I'm like, that's right. I lived through YouTube 2006-07, being a YouTube celebrity for my wine show, so I knew what it looked like. I saw that the Vine kids were that. I flew to LA and met Brittany Furlan and King Batch. I put in the work. And so it's intuition, but it's also putting in the work. When you're scared or nervous or not confident, a lot of people have DNA that makes them overcompensate. I call it a cactus. They're a cactus. They're tough on the outside, but they're soft on the inside. The reason I keep telling everybody kindness is a strength is I'm super nice and super passive actually, and like I'm willing to let people take advantage of me because I'm strong inside. So the question is, you have to just know if you're nervous, if you're using, you know, fake confidence to actually hide something you're concerned about. Humility is an incredible strength that many men and many people never want to show. Guys, I put out content more about me passing on Uber and losing than I do about the things I win on. Everybody else puts out content of fake wins. That's the difference. There's a big difference between the people that bought, you know, beachfront property in Malibu than people that are buying beachfront property in off region, no infrastructure, islands in the Caribbean, which is right in theory, but it could be an 80-year theory, right? And so it's about timing. Like VR's coming, but consumer VR is very far away. All my friends are spending millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in consumer virtual reality, VR, yet there's nobody here, nobody watching this that knows a single person that spends 3 hours a day on VR. Right? Like it's way far away. I'm not sure there's people that know people that have spent 3 hours in their life yet in VR, right? And definitely not 10 people outside of people in the business testing stuff. So I think timing really matters on that because I get worried that people jump way too far ahead and the reality is the market's not there yet. I think that I could play basketball every day of my life from the time I was 15 and put in 15 hours a day. And I think I'd be really good. I'd have a much better handle. I'd shoot better. I would have been more competitive with you on the boat that day. But would I have been good enough to be in the NBA? Absolutely not.
Maybe D3.
Maybe.
College.
Maybe. And I do think right now that everybody thinks they can be an entrepreneur. And so my point was, it's much more talent than the current conversation. I don't think you can read The School of Greatness and my books and all these other books and watch Skillshares and watch Chase Jarvis and listen to Ferris and read Branson and even go to business school and have mentors and go to Y Combinator and then all of a sudden just because of that you become a great entrepreneur. I think of it like the music industry. Think about all the kids that are born into, your Clive Davis's grandson or your Whitney Houston's daughter, or you have nothing but access. You're in the studio all the time. You learn the business. But if you don't have the chops, if you don't have the vocals, you're only going to go so far. It's much more talent than people realize. I see it every day. And the video I made was like, look, you have to be okay that by pouring in 18 hours a day and learning everything might only allow you to build a business that makes $100,000 a year.
Right.
There is an absolute misconception that the American dream is entrepreneurship and everybody can do it. The difference between entrepreneurship and football is everybody who's listening right now or watching can start a business. Not everybody can go work out for the New York Yankees. There's a system. There's no system in place for entrepreneurship.
Anyone can do it.
At 16 or 22 stops you and says, hey man, you're going to lose a shitload of money and be miserable. And literally, I'll be honest with you. I'm starting this conversation for quite a noble reason. This is not me to impose my will and say, look how special I am. As a matter of fact, I'd rather think it's been the hard work than the talent. I'd rather think it was something I did versus mom and dad had sex at the right moment. I'd much rather think that. You can't be all time if you didn't have results. You can't just say you're one of the greats. I can't say I'm one of the greatest badminton players of all time if I didn't do it. First you have to do it. But the way he or she does that is by putting themselves in the best position to succeed. I met a kid last night, business went from $0 to $5 million in sales in 2 minutes. All Instagram, all the shit I spewed, I saved his life, I'm the best. I'm 27, Gary, I'm high energy, I'm just like you. And by the time I'm 30, I'm gonna be a billionaire. I stopped him. I said, why are you even doing that? First of all, you're probably not. Because you're 27, you got 5 million, and I don't see anything that gets you to $1 billion in your behavior right now. Number two, you pulled off an unbelievable thing. And you're downplaying your success because you're telling smart people like me you're gonna hit $1 billion in 30, and in 3 years I'm gonna see you and you're not gonna hit $1 billion, and you've set yourself for a loss. And most of all, and this is why I'm telling this story, if you truly are convincing yourself that you're gonna hit $1 billion by the time you're 30 and you're at 5 million from 0 at 27 and you're not gonna pull it off, all your behavior for the next 36 months is gonna be predicated on short-term behavior, not long-term behavior. And the best way to make real money, wealth, not being rich, is to do things for the long term because his life continues at 31. I think that too many people, when somebody says something they don't like to hear, dismiss it as hate and a troll. I read it and question it and then decide, is there any merit to it? And the reason I've been able to evolve is because I don't just default if somebody disagrees with me or makes fun of me that they're wrong. I try to be thoughtful about what are they doing. 9 out of 10 times, it's because they're in a bad place and they're just trying to drag me down. But occasionally there's a point there that I kind of fester in and start subconsciously adjusting what I'm doing. Feedback is important. 51-49. I would run a 51, I'd run a slash, and I'd run a 49.
What's that mean?
It would mean that I wanted to give everybody that ever came across me 51% of the value. And that's how I live my life. I so know what to do with the 49 that I want to give 51. It's leverage. It's how I think about it. It makes me feel good. I love being liked. Lewis, look, you and I run in similar circles and around a lot of different things. You know what I'm about to say is so true, and I'm very proud of this, and I am saying this because I want everybody to hear it. Do you know how nice it feels for me to know that anybody that you talk to when my name gets brought up that knows me even a little bit thinks I'm great, and only the people that don't? Like, whatever I have in hate or they don't believe the hype or what's he really about, they just don't know me.
Yeah.
And anybody that spent any amount of time, like, listen, there could be moments in time, but I know that the 137 times I've been brought up in different cocktail parties or things like that you've rarely heard from somebody who's interacted with me negative. Right. It's always been positive, and I love that.
Yeah.
And that's 51-49, man.
And you don't think it's possible to grow the entrepreneur?
I do.
Okay.
I think it's possible to grow anything. Okay. I think that I could be a better singer in 3 years. I think that I could be a better basketball player. Do I think I can become Beyonce and LeBron even if I started at 6 years old? No, I do not.
Yeah, that's right.
And so,
but you have a better chance of being a master entrepreneur than a master basketball player.
I don't know. Is how I answered that. I do think that salesmanship and organizational understanding and reverse engineering and pattern recognition is absolutely a talent. And I think, Grant, it's funny you asked me that. I think we in the world have accepted music and sports as a pure play talent. And I think entrepreneurship is something we think everybody has. And I do think everybody can. And by the way, I think it's phenomenal to go from working at a job and not being on your own rules to making a business that makes $89,000 a year, but you get to do it your way. In a world where people need to be more practical, meaning not everybody's gonna be a millionaire. It's just the truth, the data's against you. But it is phenomenal to live a life where you get to make the rules and you make enough money to live your life.
In your view, how aware are the average business leaders of the correlation between employee engagement and profitability?
Non-existent. Because CFOs are too literal, an Excel sheet, and 90%, if not 99%, are not deploying emotional intelligence above their financial intelligence, and they are spreadsheet basics. And
do we need new KPIs?
Yes.
How do we clarify this correlation? Because it is there, research shows it's there, you've seen it, others have seen it. Research
oftentimes and reporting doesn't penetrate a cliche CFO. You know, no matter what you and I come and talk from personal experience. Somebody else comes from an academic point of view on this, shows, dear CFO, you are wasting $4.9 million a year of people sitting there and crying and not working. And if you had better engagement, I know that to be true in my bones. In my bones, I know that a proper culture creates a scenario where people have better output in the time that they deploy. I know that is intuitive human. But now let's have some empathy in the other direction. If you're the CFO of Ericsson and you have to report numbers, and you have to report numbers every 90 days, it gets very hard for you to make the investment. Let's play this out. Okay, so Rick and Susan hear us and they deploy, they're bought in, they believe in you and I. What happens next? Well, you have to start putting in money to put into programs. You have to put in money to put into human beings that rev up the culture. All of a sudden, we ask the CFO, who's looking every 90 days on a whim in their mind, because it's not mathematically quantitatable no matter what our reports show, they have to pour money into this for the hope that later it pays dividends.
It's called investment.
I've heard. People don't invest.
Should I try to double or triple down on my strengths within each business as far as scheduling time, doing my thing?
You personally?
Yes.
100%.
Okay.
Like, nothing I believe in more than the fact that most people lose is they waste time on trying to fix shit that's never fixable. And what I mean by that is, I'm not gonna be an NFL quarterback. And I'm not gonna be not high energy. Do you guys understand that if I was 13% less high energy, that I would be 2 times bigger? There's a lot of people that can't deal with my energy. Do you understand that if I didn't curse, that I would have 12 million followers, not 6? Like, people don't get it. Like, but I'm just a buyer of like being who you are. I could be so much bigger if I toned it down a hair, cleaned up a little language, today, not in 12 years.
Swordplay, yeah.
Got it? Mm-hmm. Understand?
Yep.
That's how I think about strengths and weaknesses. One thing I love about athletes is if they get to the right place mentally, they're in a place where they're always ready to get booed. I genuinely think the reason I'm super successful is because I got booed my whole life. I was an immigrant, couldn't speak English, got booed. I was a terrible student, a couple miles away from here, got booed, right? I was small as and not good enough at sports, got booed. I got booed at everything, which made me a great entrepreneur because I'm ready to get booed. I love being booed. I love L's. The reason I love the Jets and Knicks so much is they haven't won shit. I grew up a huge Yankees and Rangers fan. As soon as they won a title, I was out. I'm about to climb. I love losses. I love pain. I'm serious, I love it. I think that, giving is intoxicating once you get into it, but you can't give if you're not in a place of giving. And that doesn't mean money. That means happiness. And I think Ed, you, me, others, I'm really, really excited. I think the alpha male winner is starting to evolve. I don't think it means being a pushover, like some people get concerned that our culture is getting too woke on that. I think it means rounded in that, like, I want people to feel comfortable in their selfishness. I love saying, I'll do it right now. I want everybody to sign up for winetext.com if you buy wine. Now that's my dad's business, but that is like my family business. So I want people to promote their thing. I wanted people to buy K-Swiss. I want them to buy Empathy Wines. I want them to go to VaynerMedia and VaynerX.com and work with my companies. I want that. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't want people to disguise, what happens. You get into this gratitude guilt frame where when you're saying something, you hedge it with but it's altruistic. I'm like, you can have both. You can be altruistic and give and be awesome and be selfish and have a boat and a house and millions of dollars. Like, it's all good. And by the way, you can also do whatever the you want. But there is no balanced conversation right now. It's almost like you have to be foofy, give away everything, or completely rogue, I'm all about me. And the reality is everybody's in between. And I want to be great at both, right? Like bleeding out of my eyeballs till 3 a.m. this whole week, every day, and being exhausted, but knowing that I'm one of the 3 energies. There's 5 energies. Alan Tisch, Michael Rubin, the founder of it, and me, and then Fanatics' company and VaynerMedia's company, they're working right this second, that have helped in 5 days to raise $10 million. That's going to feed some kid in Mississippi, some elderly woman in Westchester. Eat. Not to mention all the happiness that comes when you're the person that wins the speaking role in Leo, and you're just a normal person, and for months, you and your friends are just happy every day talking about it. Yeah. 83 people in your world, there's so much good that can be done, both selfless and selfish. The reason so many things are easy for me is I don't give a f***. He's using my signature on a thing. I have no idea what the f*** he's talking about. My signature is my most important IP. And I don't give a f*** because I like him, and fine, Nate did something, want to sell 5 bottles, 15 cases, 40K. But do you know how many people would freak the f*** out with that?
Yeah.
It just matters. The answer is very individual. Yeah. There's most of the things I do, most people don't agree with. Most of the things I do, most people don't agree with, because I'm unique in my lack of interest in short-term money. And I'm now starting to debate even money in itself. I just like my process. Everybody's got so much pressure to have it figured out when they come out of school. It's time to be real and real life and all that shit. It's f***ing stupid. 22 to 30 should be experimenting. Travel, and people are like, well, I don't have money. I'm like, you can still travel. You can get a bullshit plane ticket. You can take a bus, do shit. So I think you're not gonna find what you like. It's like food. I'm always fascinated by oysters. The amount of people that think they hate oysters, even though they've never had one, I see so many people living life that way. You don't know your passion because you haven't done shit, Billy. I spend all my time listening. The reason I want people to leave comments is I read them. I read all the comments. I read the ones that say that I'm the best. I read the ones that say that I'm the worst. I read and all I do is I listen. It's so funny. I get made fun of when I ask Gary Vee because I'm always interrupting people. It's because I've gotten so good at listening. I know what the people are gonna say before they say it. I just wanna move on, you know? So one of the ways to get the next clients is to never let the last client fail. The only way not to let a client fail is to over-listen and provide them what they want at all costs, which is why I always push against people selling to the bottom, because the bottom doesn't know what to do with it, and then you're never gonna win. You're just gonna keep regurgitating the bottom. And so that's how I did it. I did it first, and then I listened very carefully to the first 20 clients to make sure there was no chance that there was gonna be any vulnerability, and I built on the word of mouth of our quality deliverables for the client. The internet's here. It's a complete land grab. There's unlimited opportunity. Nobody cares where you started. Nobody's stopping you. There's nobody that's gotta take your resume. There's no grades that matter, none of it. What matters is, are you willing to hustle? And how bad do you want it? And are you willing to live a life where you're not letting other people judge you, so then you're not pandering to it? You guys know Grey Goose? The guy who invented that as an entrepreneur invented it at 78. Sidney Frank, 78 years old. You know? Life is like sports. Like, one of the great moments of my life with AJ is the Monday Night Miracle at the Meadowlands with the Jets Dolphins. That shit was 30-7 in the fourth quarter. And they won. They came all the way back. My cousin left, went home to Queens, went to sleep. I called him when they tied it at 30 and said, can you believe this shit? He's already sleeping. He left that game and was already sleeping in Queens. I was like, what are you talking about? Hung up. And then the Dolphins scored and made it 37-30. And we blamed Bobby for waking up. But like, that's life. Like, you could do everything wrong. Have every dream you've ever had get f***ed up. Blame it on other people. The girl f***ed it up. That injury f***ed it up. Coach f***ed it up. Blame everybody. Have everything go wrong. Be 57 years old and still have 40 years to make it right. It's crazy, honestly. Like, if there was some crazy new drug that I could like inject in you that gave you perspective of time, you guys too, that's the drug I would give you. Straight up. It makes you optimistic. People are sitting here dwelling already. Dwelling already. I shouldn't have come to Rutgers. I knew it. Of course there's people thinking that. Like, that's just real life. Dwelling already, haven't even started. Man, that's what I want to change. The only thing that you can do wrong is not being yourself. I see a lot of people scared to actually be themselves because they're scared who's watching. And they, like, I hate looking at all your LinkedIn accounts. You've got like a suit and tie, looking all professional. Like, you think something bad's gonna happen if you're normal. I look like a mess up here. I'm wearing a Tierra Whack sweatshirt. Like, the results always win. And I think a lot of people hold back their natural self. The market doesn't care in the end. Somebody may judge you, but the market doesn't care. I learned from so much doing. That's why my data is so clean. It's why I'm an innovator. It's why I'm fast. It's why a lot of good things happen for me, because I realized just the doing is actually more efficient than the thinking about it. Somebody said something really funny to me once, and it was like the dig of this version, and it's a really funny conversation. He was talking about VaynerMedia at the time. This was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. He said, you know, Gary, I gotta tell you, I love your company, but I gotta take a little bit of a knock on you. He was trying to set it up. I'm like, okay, what is it? He goes, where I think you need to be more thoughtful, Gary, is I have a feeling though that you might run through that glass panel and sit with us when you could have just opened the door. And I said, yeah, but which one was cooler? Evan, thank you so much for having a couple seconds and being able to tell the Believe Nation a little bit about Empathy Wines. It means a lot to me that you would take this valuable real estate and time on your channel to give me some love. It means a lot. It's just good karma points, and so you're awesome. Thank you. Believe Nation, if you're into wine at all, go to empathywines.com. My whole career's work was poured into producing a wine that rivaled $40 to $60 wine for 20 bucks a bottle. I'm just super excited about this subscription-based wine business. You can order 3, 6, or 12 bottles in subscription form, rosé, white, red. If you search on Instagram or Twitter, you will be blown away. People are literally like, I don't even like Gary Vee, but the wine's good. Super proud of the effort. Thanks, Evan, for the time. Wishing you guys all happy and healthy.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Grant Cardone, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
One of the things that I started doing was beating the sun up every morning. I'm gonna beat that sun up every morning so that I have the discipline and the control over my life. So I knew, hey, before that thing pops,